The council chamber of the Galactic Assembly hung in the void between stars, a cathedral of crystal and light that had witnessed 10,000 species rise and fall. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the center of the accusatory circle, 700 alien eyes fixed upon her with expressions ranging from curiosity to contempt. The human delegation will now undergo the trial of worth, announced High Arbiter exhaustion, its voice resonating through translation nodes embedded in Chen's skull. The mantis-like creature stood 20 feet tall, its carapace shimmering with bioluminescent scripts of ancient law. Chen had expected this. Earth's xenoanthropologists had warned her that every species faced some form of evaluation. What she hadn't expected was the palpable tension in the chamber, the way even the most stoic representatives leaned forward with what could only be described as anticipation. The trial is simple, exhaustion continued. You will face the crucible of leadership, a virtual simulation where you must guide your species through an extinction-level crisis. You have 1 hour to succeed. Failure is not merely expected, Ambassador Chen. It is inevitable. Something in that last word made Chen's spine straighten. Then why bother with the trial at all? A ripple of, was that laughter? Passed through the assembly. Representative Thrix of the Vel Collective, a being that resembled a floating jellyfish filled with stars, pulsed with amusement. Because, young species, we do not test your ability to succeed, Thrix chimed. We test how you fail. The quality of your surrender. The grace of your acceptance. These things tell us who you truly are. Chen felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her voice level. I see. And what have other species shown you? Exhaustions's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The Vel Collective lasted 14 minutes before accepting the inevitable. The Kryn Empire, with all their military genius, persisted for 37 minutes. The longest any species has endured the crucible was the Ethereal Communion, who maintained their composure for 53 minutes before acknowledging defeat with philosophical dignity. And that earned them a seat on the council. It earned them our respect, Thrix corrected. The council seat came after 3 centuries of proving their wisdom. Chen nodded slowly. When do we begin? Immediately. The chamber dissolved. Chen stood on a virtual Earth, but not her Earth. This planet was dying. The sun had entered its red giant phase a billion years early, expanding to consume Mercury and Venus. She could see it on the horizon, a vast crimson eye that took up half the sky. The oceans were boiling. The atmosphere was bleeding into space. A holographic interface appeared before her, showing humanity's resources, a population of 11 billion, 300 space stations, a dozen partially constructed generation ships, each capable of holding 10,000 people in cryo-sleep. The mathematics were brutally simple. Best case scenario, she could save 120,000 people. She would have to choose who lived and who died, and then watch 10,999,880,000 people burn. Chen took a breath and got to work. She prioritized the generation ships, redirecting every available resource to their completion. She established a lottery system for the cryopods, completely random, no exemptions, including for herself and the other decision-makers. When riots broke out, she addressed them directly, her virtual self appearing in every city square on Earth. I know this is unfair, she said, her voice carrying to billions. I know it's not enough. But I need you to help me save who we can. What happened next would be talked about in the council chambers for generations. The riot stopped. People went back to work. Scientists and engineers pulled quadruple shifts without being asked. Parents who knew they wouldn't be chosen for evacuation helped build the ships that would carry someone else's children to the stars. Artists and poets created time capsules of human culture, ensuring that something of Earth would survive even if they didn't. 23 minutes in, Chen launched the first generation ship. At 30 minutes, Exhaustion's voice echoed through the simulation. Ambassador Chen, you have performed admirably. The council acknowledges your efforts. You may surrender with honor. Chen barely glanced at the message. for more ships to launch. At 40 minutes, Ambassador, the scenario is mathematically unwinnable. You cannot save your species. You may conclude the trial. 2 more ships. Stand by. At 54 minutes, Chen passed the ethereal communion's record. The council chamber, watching through quantum-linked feeds, had gone completely silent. This had never happened before. At 58 minutes, Chen launched the final generation ship. 120,000 humans in cryosleep, accelerating toward a distant star system with a habitable planet. The infrastructure of Earth was depleted. The sun continued to expand. 10 billion people remained on a dying world. Chen did not log out of the simulation. Instead, she opened a new interface and began redesigning the abandoned space stations. Ambassador Chen, Zexthal's voice had lost its formal cadence. The trial hour has concluded. You have extracted the maximum possible survivors. What are you doing? Buying time, Chen said, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. If I convert these stations into solar shields and position them in a lattice formation, I can reduce surface temperatures by 3 degrees. That's not much, but it gives us another week. Maybe 2. To what end? You cannot save the remaining population. Not yet. But maybe I can save a few more. A few hundred more. A few thousand more. Chen's voice was steady, determined. Every life counts. At hour 2, Chen had jury-rigged a fleet of cargo vessels into makeshift evacuation craft. They had no cryopods, no faster-than-light drives, but they could hold people in rotating habitats, keeping a few thousand more alive in space. At hour 4, she had consolidated the remaining population into underground bunkers, extending their survival time while she worked on increasingly desperate engineering solutions. The council chamber watched in something approaching awe. This wasn't how species failed. This wasn't how anyone failed. At hour 8, Thrick spoke quietly to Zexthal. Should we stop her? The High Arbiter paused. I do not know. This has never happened before. At hour 16, Chen's simulated Earth was a charred husk, barely clinging to life. She had saved an additional 11,000 people through increasingly creative solutions. The sun continued to expand. Physics could not be negotiated with. Chen kept working. At hour 24, Zexthal entered the simulation personally, materializing beside Chen's exhausted avatar. Ambassador. Please. You have proven beyond any doubt that humanity possesses remarkable determination. But you must rest. This scenario has no victory condition. Chen looked at the mantis-like alien, her eyes bloodshot, her hands shaking from the neural strain of maintaining the simulation interface for a full day. With respect, High Arbiter, I didn't ask for a victory condition. I asked when we begin. And you have exceeded all. There are still 6 million people alive in the bunkers, Chen interrupted. I've been working on a theory. If I can create a temporary magnetic field using the planet's core, I might be able to. Ambassador. Zexthal's voice was gentle now, almost paternal. Please. Tell me. When will you stop? Chen Wei turned to face the High Arbiter fully, and in her eyes was something that made the ancient being take a step back. Not anger. Not madness. Just an absolute, unshakable refusal to accept the unacceptable. When they're all dead, Chen said simply. Or when I am. Whichever comes first. At hour 36, the council convened an emergency session. Nothing in their ancient protocols covered this situation. The simulation was designed to be psychologically demanding but ultimately harmless, a test of character, not endurance. But Ambassador Chen showed no signs of stopping, even as her physical body in the real world began to show signs of dangerous neural fatigue. We must terminate the trial, argued Representative Tlack of the Geometric Ascendancy. Her brain chemistry is approaching dangerous levels. But she hasn't surrendered, Thrix observed. By our own laws, we cannot force her exit while she maintains consciousness and continues to pursue victory. There is no victory. Plaque's crystalline body chimed in distress. That's the point. Zexthal remained silent, mandibles clicking in thought. Finally, the High Arbiter spoke. I believe we may have made an error in our understanding. What do you mean? We designed the crucible to test how species accept the impossible. But what if we encountered a species that simply doesn't? At hour 48, Chen's simulated Earth was nothing but a molten sphere, orbiting inside the red giant's outer corona. The 6 million people in the bunkers had long since perished. By any objective measure, humanity had gone extinct in the simulation. Chen Wei continued working, now attempting to extract quantum data from the moment just before each person's death, exploring whether consciousness could be preserved in some form, uploaded somewhere, somehow. This is insane, she muttered to herself, but her hands never stopped moving. This is insane, but maybe if I... At hour 60, the council made a decision that would alter galactic politics forever. Zexthal appeared in the simulation again. Ambassador Chen Wei. Not now. I'm close to something. Ambassador. I am altering the parameters of the scenario. That made Chen pause. What? The crucible has been updated. A benevolent alien species has arrived in your solar system with the technology to evacuate your remaining population. Humanity is saved. Chen stared at the High Arbiter, then at the new data appearing in her interface. It was true. In the simulation, massive alien vessels appeared in orbit, beginning evacuation procedures. Humanity would survive. Slowly, Chen closed her interface and logged out. She woke in the council chamber, medical drones already attending to her. Every representative in the assembly was standing, or whatever the equivalent was for their particular anatomy. Zexthal approached, its towering form somehow seeming smaller. Ambassador Chen Wei, in 10,000 years of galactic governance, we have never witnessed anything like what you just demonstrated. We have 3 questions. Chen's voice was hoarse. Ask. First, did you truly believe you could win? No. Second, then why continue? Chen struggled to sit up, waving away a medical drone. Because believing I can't win is not the same as accepting I shouldn't try. Every minute I fought was another minute those people in my simulation were alive. Every solution I attempted, no matter how desperate, was a chance, however small. I've studied Earth's history, High Arbiter. Humanity has faced extinction events, ice ages, supervolcanoes, plagues. We survived not because we were the strongest or the smartest, but because we were too stubborn to die.